The DevOps Foundation Course, Lesson 11, Automation Practices and Tool Categories. Welcome to Lesson 11. In this lesson, our focus is on the automation practices and tool categories that will support effective DevOps. Remember, DevOps is about culture, not just automation, but automation can provide significant support to DevOps. We're going to start this lesson by looking at some DevOps automation practices. DevOps cannot dictate which specific tools an organization should use, but there are some common sense practices to consider. Organizations should avoid tools that encourage and enforce silos, reducing the level of collaboration and integration between Dev and Ops. They should consider adopting a tool chain philosophy. This involves using a set of integrated, complementary, task-specific tools to automate an end-to-end process. This might be a shift away from using a single vendor solution that forces processes to work with the tool, rather than the tools supporting the processes. Before we can choose a tool, we need to understand our requirements. This includes an understanding of our artifact and information flow, mapped using a technique like value stream mapping. We can then look at integrating a set of task-specific tools to enable that flow. When teams collaborate using integrated tools, Dev and Ops will be able to better understand each other's requirements and ways of working. Integrated tools will also improve flow. Test-driven development is a common practice in DevOps organizations, with software deliberately developed with test automation in mind. Many organizations also require Dev to build the code that enables monitoring into each application as part of their standard practices. Technical staff should be allowed to spend quality time devising and deploying automation capabilities. The organization might move towards a self-service environment to reduce delays even further. Developers could, for example, use a self-service option to build a test environment. All of the tools we use should support the third way and enable experimentation and learning. So, where should we begin our automation strategy? A good rule is to start with repetitive tasks. Every time a task is repeated in the organization, make a commitment to investigate whether it's suitable for automation and track changes in version control. Every time a task is automated, it frees up time to be invested in automating other tasks. Automation makes it easy for people to do the right thing and do it right rather than taking shortcuts. You can see some prime candidates for automation on screen here. Some tasks will never be suitable for automation, perhaps because they are unique, or perhaps because of their level of complexity. Where a task is suitable for automation, simplify and understand it first. There's no point automating a bad process. Here's a quote from Patrick Dubois, who is credited with creating the term DevOps. "Your tools alone will not make you successful." There's a common expression that a fool with a tool is still a fool. Keeping good practices in mind will help us choose the correct tool for the correct job. We're moving on now to look at application life concerns and tool categories. We'll be studying concerns that arise in the life of an application and how tools can help to elevate these concerns in a DevOps context. We will not be discussing the application development lifecycle and its associated tool categories in depth, but you can do further reading into areas that interest you after the course. The diagram you can see here shows a typical application lifecycle. Using DevOps practices can help Dev and Ops work together, rather than in a stereotypical development throw things over a wall environment. Dev and Ops should work together throughout the application lifecycle. Click on each of the 4 stages to learn more. During plan and build, we need to ensure quality of code and the state of the environment, as you can see on screen here. Version control tools enable change control and tracking for all production artifacts. They give a single source of truth. You'll need to be familiar with this definition for your exam. DevOps needs to capture a single source of the truth for all stages of the lifecycle and all environments, not just development or operations. Many organizations focus on quality of code first, but there are some that will focus on the state of the environment first to try and avoid configuration errors when code is checked in. This can reduce time spent troubleshooting and enable continuous delivery. Remember, when we use the word deploy, we mean installed. This doesn't necessarily mean code or functionality has been released to production or is visible to customers. Organizations need to test deployment scripts by using them to install software in all of their environments. Once software has deployed correctly and been tested, it can be promoted to the next environment, for example, from QA to staging. You can see the key considerations for deploy and test here. They are to ensure software is deployed correctly and is ready for promotion. Software configuration management tools will be used to standardize resource configuration and enforce their state across the IT infrastructure. Configuration management tools enable organizations to define a desired state, ensure compliance with that desired state, control and track changes, and do status reporting. Historically, these tools were seen as operations tools. DevOps uses them across all environments. Here you can see the key concerns for measure and promote to understand the impact of new releases and promote new releases. The word release is used as both a noun and a verb, which can create confusion. A release is one or more changes that have been bundled together. Releasing a change involves making the change visible to customers in staging or live production. Why not do some research into release automation tools? In the measure and promote part of the lifecycle, extensive use of monitoring and application performance management tools makes it possible to better understand how changes will perform. This should be done in both development and operations, and also needs to include monitoring that looks at if the monitoring itself is working as required. The goal of continuous delivery and continuous deployment is to deploy code into production all of the time, even if the features aren't immediately made available to customers via the release process. Remember, a production deployment puts code into production, and a feature release makes it available to end users. Here you can see key concerns for the run stage of the lifecycle, ensuring stability and high performance. Run means the release is in the production environment, so it can be measured against the business requirements and objectives it was meant to deliver. Monitoring, which should have been designed in from the start, will make it possible to gather feedback on levels of stability and performance. Software configuration management tools are used to ensure the environment is maintained in the desired state. Why not do some personal research into the tools we've highlighted? What would be useful in your organization? We're going to finish this lesson by looking at some other tool categories that will support DevOps. Click on the boxes to find out more. There are many vendors who offer IT service management toolsets. Why not do some internet research into this area? Streamlined and automated ITSM processes are the key to DevOps success, so the right tool or tools will be very important. You won't be examined on the definitions of these tools, but we do recommend you do your own research into any that are unfamiliar to you. Remember, these tools will not just be used in ops. There are many possible tools to support communication and collaboration. Each organization needs to select what tools it wants to use and then create rules of engagement for how staff will use the tools. Real-time collaboration using chat tools can help to improve flow. What communication tools do you use in your organization? You can see some examples of tools here. A shared backlog will allow teams to select improvement projects from an organizational perspective, rather than just seeing backlogs on a team-by-team or product-by-product basis. Shared backlogs can be used to prioritize the work that delivers the greatest organizational value and helps to pay down technical debt. The final topic for us to consider here is tool chains. A tool chain is a set of distinct software development tools that are linked or chained together by specific stages. Providing these types of shared service can facilitate standardization and improve productivity between teams. If all teams share the same tools, engineers can switch from team to team without having to learn new tools and ways of working. We'll add a diagram to your study guide that shows a deployment pipeline toolchain visualized with its underlying processes. Toolchains automate tasks in the deployment pipeline. Each element of the toolchain serves a specific purpose, with applications connected together via APIs. The toolchain model allows organizations to select a range of tools from multiple vendors, but they will need to be supported by an architectural design to enforce interoperability and consistency. You can see some examples of typical toolchain elements here. The deployment pipeline breaks the software delivery lifecycle into logical stages. Each stage allows the team to test the quality of new features, get feedback, and see the flow of changes. Toolchains allow each stage to be automated and expedited. The toolchain or toolchains an organization uses will need to be continually adapted and improved to meet evolving DevOps priorities. We'll add a diagram to your study guide to show an example process for introducing increasing automation in the creation of a toolchain. Finally, be aware that some organizations will have multiple toolchains for different applications. These may need to interface with each other and need to be managed at an overall enterprise architecture level. You've completed Lesson 11. In this lesson, we consider the automation practices and tool categories that will support effective DevOps. Think about the tools in use in your own organization. Are they supporting collaboration? Where might you need to make improvements? In the next lesson, we'll start to think about adopting a DevOps culture.